she can say things that candidates cannot say about each other with great authority.
He can get to the 1-yard line and then he fumbles the ball because he just can't help himself. And I think this ad sort of is emblematic of that. Welcome to Political Experts React, where we break down political ads in media, explain what people behind them are trying to accomplish, and decide whether or not they did a good job. I'm Dan Pfeiffer, former communications director for Barack Obama, and joining me today is one of the Democratic Party's leading pollsters, Celinda Lake. Celinda Lake, welcome to Political Experts React. It's great to see you.
Great to see you too. How are you?
I'm good. We're recording this a week after Democrats had a historic run of success in the 2023 elections. And the first ad we're going to watch is from one of those victories. It's an ad run by the Andy Beshear campaign and his run for re-election to governor of Kentucky.
I was raped by my stepfather after years of sexual abuse. I was 12. Anyone who believes there should be no exceptions for rape and incest could never understand what it's like to stand in my shoes. This is to you, Daniel Cameron. To tell a 12-year-old girl she must have the baby of her stepfather who raped her is unthinkable. I'm speaking out because women and girls need to have options. Daniel Cameron would give us none.
That's obviously a very powerful and emotional ad. Incredibly notable that it was run in Kentucky, a place where a few years ago you probably wouldn't have expected a Democrat to be running an ad on abortion. I want to get your thoughts on the ad and whether this sort of strategy in these sorts of ads can work in 2024 against Donald Trump.
Yes, well, first of all, remember that Kentucky had an initiative in 2022 where they reaffirmed their right to an abortion. So post-Dobbs, we're in a very surprising world, but that's obviously just a phenomenal ad, and the authenticity of that young woman and the emotional content, it's just unbelievable. And she can say things that candidates cannot say about each other with great authority. Her delivery is it's just so powerful and it's frankly so brave. We're finding that real people are testing way better than politicians. Whether it's providing a positive or providing a negative, people just do not want to hear from politicians, particularly about other politicians. Secondly, we're seeing, and we saw affirmed in Kentucky, in Ohio, in Virginia, in Pennsylvania, the power of the abortion issue post-Dobbs. It is not waning. It mobilizes our side. It persuades swing independent women. This ad, too, I think, very powerful with older baby boomer women, too, who may be less worried about their own need for an abortion, but very worried about the situation that's being described here. So I think you're going to see abortion used a lot in 2024. I think the Republicans are getting desperate to right-size themselves. You saw in Virginia them try to use the 15-week ban. It failed miserably for them, and it's just a different world. People kept saying to me, particularly white men who aren't as smart as you are, Dan, aren't people going to get tired of abortion? And I always say, well, until people get tired of sex, I don't think they're going to get tired of abortion. So I think you're going to see a lot of ads. This was part of a broader strategy the last 6 weeks. And as you know, that race was closing and then expanded again. And very, very powerful ad. Very courageous woman.
Incredibly powerful story, incredibly courageous of her to deliver that story in public and put herself in the political sphere, which is not a friendly place to be these days. What is really interesting, what you just said to me, is that real people are testing better than politicians, which fits with a lot of the polling we've seen recently that cynicism at politics and exhaustion with politics is at a historic high. We look at so many ads on this show where it seems like the goal is to have the voter tune out as soon as possible, right? With like all the normal accoutrements of a political ad, right? The voiceover, the sharp cuts, the grainy
sinister
photos.
Face.
Yes, people are not going to get sick of talking about abortion, especially as we live in a world where a Republican trifecta in 2025 is likely to pass a federal abortion ban. But we are going to have to, as a party, continue to keep it at the top of voters' minds by advertising about it. It's not a thing that I think will happen on its own. And so we're going to have to work, I think, pretty hard with Trump in ways that are maybe a little more challenging than with other more traditional Republicans.
I think that's absolutely right. In fact, we did focus groups in 2020, and I was moderating them, and I said, Donald Trump wants to defund Planned Parenthood. And the group laughed at me, and I said, no, I can show you the clip. And one woman said in the group, I bet he's paid for 3 abortions at Planned Parenthood.
I've heard that come up, and I've heard several people tell me that's shown up in a lot of focus groups where people think he's paid for abortions. The next ad we're going to watch is from Joe Biden.
He's not a war hero.
He's a war hero.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
The Biden campaign tried some similar ads in 2020 after that Atlantic story came out about Trump disparaging people who lost their lives in war, saying terrible things about General John Kelly's son. What do you think of this ad?
I think this is a very powerful ad. And there are two things that make it really powerful. Again, really high emotional content. What we're finding is that it really tests well to use candidates in their own words. And you have to establish a pattern. Otherwise, voters think, well, you're taking this out of context. We actually tested this ad in focus groups. It tested off the charts. And that's in part because people have some memory muscle of both the McCain comment and the I don't want to go to the cemetery comment. So there's a little bit of reminding people. Ultimately, character is one of the strongest things that Biden still has against Donald Trump. And so I think this isn't really about veterans. It's about the character of the person in their own words, repeatedly doing this. And these kinds of ads are really, really powerful to women.
I like this ad a lot. I like campaigns who are opportunistic in the news cycle. This was Veterans Weekend. Trump had already made some other comments. Like, there's a context to put this in front of people and trying to move the ball along. So I think that's very good. I also just think broadly, we should just be running a lot of ads with Trump in his own words.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen this in focus groups too. People have forgotten what Trump is like. They do not see him ever. Unless you have situated yourself by choice in the right-wing media ecosystem, you just don't ever see Trump. In the very controversial New York Times Siena poll that came out the other week, Biden had a 19-point edge on temperament, and it's down to 4 now, right? And so a lot of that is increasing concerns about Biden, but concerns about Trump's temperament have also dropped. And I think that absence has made the heart grow fonder for Trump, and we can change that with ads like this.
And you know, the irony is he's in very controlled settings because the degree to which he's covered in these trials. And of course, we process these trials as he's constantly violating the rules. He's constantly under fines. He's constantly been ordered by the judge. But he's seen in a suit and pretty controlled. And actually had a coming out party with that vermin comment. First time he's been kind of unleashed. And the fact that he's not in the debates, people aren't seeing him. And women in particular need to be reminded. And a lot of parents need to be reminded that they don't want this as a role model for their sons and daughters.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, folks, I'm back here today to talk about my favorite sponsor, ZBiotics. ZBiotics is a pre-alcohol probiotic drink and the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle tough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make ZBiotics pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Look, I love this product. In the last 3 weeks, Pod Save America has been to Louisville, Chicago for a 15-year Obama campaign reunion, and New Orleans. ZBiotics saved my life in every location. I love this product. I swear by it. It has been, I recommend it to everyone I possibly can. You should check it out. Go to zbiotics.com/experts to get 15% off your first order when you use experts at checkout. Thanks to ZBiotics for sponsoring this episode. All right, the last ad we're going to watch is from the Trump campaign.
They come from different walks of life, but all have one thing in common. They want their country back. Parents who want to take back control of their children's education. Veterans tired of being kicked to the curb. They believe in protecting the sanctity of life, securing our borders, standing for the flag, kneeling for God above, and an honest day's pay for an honest day's work. Hillary made fun of them.
You could put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Biden called them a threat.
The MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
And DeSantis degradingly called them listless vessels. No, they aren't, Ron. They're great Americans who know there's one person who will always have their backs.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
This ad's obviously run in the context of the Republican primary that Trump is winning and kind of enjoying doing donuts on his opponents here. But did you have any reaction to it, or did it tell you anything about how he's thinking in 2024?
I think it's a fascinating ad because it's trying to do so much, and there's some really brilliant parts of it and some really incredibly bad parts of it, and you have to feel like he must have had a hand in this.
Exactly.
So his
exactly.
idea of inclusion, the footage, more diversity than you normally see in his photos, and this idea of we're all one, that's really strong, I think. And people think he's a source of division, and he's taking that on. So that's brilliant. We're all one. People really want to be all one. The second thing I think that's really smart is he's providing a lot of right-wing code. That kneel before God language, that's not the language that all people of faith use. It's a certain evangelical language. The border language is code. There's a lot of code in what he's saying. The veterans piece, because he knows he's got some vulnerability there. But then he just goes crazy. It's like, are you running against Hillary? Are you running against Biden? Are you running against DeSantis? Are you trying to say DeSantis and Biden are the same? And you just want to attach some content to it by association. Whoever sees Hillary or DeSantis with Biden. So it's just all over the place. It's classic Trump. And I think he takes what can be very strong and that we can often underestimate, and then he ruins it because he just throws everything in and does everything.
Yeah, it does make me think that he must have final sign off on the campaign ads, because the first half of the ad is strategic and thought out. They understand the vulnerabilities. They understand why they lost in 2020. They're like this close to having an ad that is appealing to a broad swath of the electorate, to actual persuadable voters. And then they get like Fox News brain. You have to just have a PhD in Fox News to understand. And it's like, how many voters remember or care about Hillary Clinton's 2016 comments about the deplorable? It's just, Donald Trump is running a better campaign thus far than he has ever run previously. He is more disciplined. Some of that discipline has been imposed by the fact that the media doesn't want to cover him in the same way, which is actually harmful to Democrats this time, I think. But he can get to the 1 yard line and then he fumbles the ball because he just can't help himself. And I think this ad sort of is emblematic of that.
And his campaign in the end is such a campaign of resentment. He wants to write the record. He wants to take on everybody who's ever taken him on. And I think ultimately that's going to be his downfall. People want it to be about them, not you. People want your concentration to be about them, not you. And these constant leaks, like vetting 54,000 people to make sure they support his agenda and stuff, that just sounds like all you're thinking about is yourself. We want you to think about us. And it's scary because people do think Donald Trump could get something done for them, but not if he's totally focused on himself.
I do think that when we think about those comments of him, like vetting all the people and all these other, like, sort of the revenge things, we're probably better off explaining it as narcissistic tendencies of a weak, insecure man, than some sort of fascist strong man. It's like speaks to his weakness, not his strength. And I think we sometimes, as a progressive movement, make that mistake because we are legitimately concerned about the end of democracy. But the way you beat a strong man is you make him look weak.
That's a really strong comment. I think that's a really important comment. And what I would add is Democrats are often losing, not because we are too liberal, but because we are perceived to be too weak.
Yep,
so it's a
exactly
twofer. A really smart point you made, Dan.
Yeah. Celinda, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for
Thank
everything you're
you.
doing for the party, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Love it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching these ads and videos with us. If you have anything you'd like us to break down, let us know in the comments. See everyone next time.